Good morning. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Thursday, August the 2nd. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka, I know is in the building.
They're in the building.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown is in the building. And Chairman Eilert.
Here. We will have a full dais as soon as Mr. Brown arrives, and we're there now. So we do have a quorum present. Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would ask of those who are present, if you have a noise-making device, you could turn it to silent mode or off so as not to interfere with the electronic communications. All of our meetings are streamed online, and welcome to those who might be watching this morning. We have a couple of presentations to make, and we'll do so at this time. I'm going to ask several folks to join me at the podium. Susan Gray, Jason Burnett, and Captain Rick Newsom from the Sheriff's Office. And if there are others from HR or the Sheriff's Office who would like to join us, you're welcome to do so. Becky Salter, our Director of HR. See you. We have a special recognition for Johnson County Sheriff's Office this morning, and it was proposed by our HR department at their national conference. So I'm going to let Susan or okay, Becky. I guess they were hoping you would show up. So. But anyway, Becky, if you'll describe to us the action and the recognition, it's an excellent, another example of the excellence in Johnson County government.
I agree.
Thanks.
I agree. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about IPMA, which is an international organization dedicated to supporting the needs of public sector human resources and everything that goes with that. You may remember last year the HR team in Johnson County was recognized at the national level. This particular award is at the regional level. The way the organization is set up, it's set up of 4 regions, and the Sheriff's Office was awarded the Agency Award of Excellence Award for the Central Region, which is amongst 12 states. I want you to stay tuned because I have a feeling we'll be submitting an award for the national award next year when it comes time. This was given in recognition of a best practice that results in improved service, delivery, recognizable improvements. It's innovative and has positive outcomes. And the award was submitted really highlighting the recruitment process over the past year. After Sheriff Hayden entered office, as you know, we partnered very closely and looked at their recruitment process head to toe, worked with the Sheriff's Personnel Unit. Everybody worked cooperatively, collaboratively. And if you want to read more about their efforts, I can share this with you. They'll be highlighted in the August issue of the international magazines. So very proud of the team that worked together. And I think, Captain Newsom, if you want to invite the rest of your team up. Okay. What do you think?
I was going to say, everybody from the personnel division, everybody at least stand up so everybody can see who has contributed to this great success.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, and Rick, you're welcome to make some comments, but to kind of put this in perspective, I think during this period of working with HR, there was something like almost a little over 100 new recruits to the sheriff's office. And this is an important issue because recruiting had been difficult, had been a challenge for police organizations across the country. So with this cooperative effort between HR and the sheriff's office, they were successful. Rick, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. As Becky said, this was a team effort, and you've kind of heard a little bit about the award. I'd like to talk about this group here that stood up before you this morning, that when Sheriff Hayden come into office, he presented an extremely large challenge to us in the personnel division, and that challenge was hire 70 people to fill these empty spots. And not only with that challenge, he gave us the ability and opened the door for us to think outside the box, ask questions why, and we moved forward with that. And not only did we meet that goal of 70 new hires, but like the chairman said, we had 107 people we hired, which is a 200% increase over the last year. And this group right here, along with our partners, did an outstanding job. We had 5 deputies working full-time for us. Jacob was our master fingerprinter over there that did this. Erica was our administrative assistant, and we had 4 part-time investigators that helped us out. That if you're involved with HR at all, you'll know that it took hundreds and hundreds of applications to go through to find 107 quality people to hire on, because they didn't just fill spots, they hired quality people. And that took a team, like Becky was saying, and a big part of that team outside the, our division was human resources. Jason and Susan, you guys were very instrumental in helping us, in keeping us on track, keeping us online, gave recommendations on improving our starting salary, that we were competitive in the metro area. They condensed our application down to make it a lot more convenient for the applicants to apply. And they helped us with salaries with one of the new projects that the sheriff implemented, and that was lateral hires, and I'll get into that in a minute. Our Civil Service Board was very cooperative with us in allowing us to modify the situation to where we can hire people, and the timeline was just a lot more convenient without any delays. Jim's worked with us in getting all the IT stuff together and putting it all together in a package and presenting it. And our training division, along with our detention trainers, they were extremely flexible in getting this. When you have an influx of that many people, it takes some flexibility and some planning to get everybody trained in the time that the Kansas State requires us to. And some of the new things we tried was lateral hires. We opened this up for law enforcement officers that have already working in a law enforcement agency with the experience to come in, and we attracted people from the eastern half of Kansas and through some other states, bringing them in, bringing their experience in, and adding to the quality here at the sheriff's office. We had 2 of our deputies certified as in-house polygraph experts to where they can do the polygraphs for us. And that condensed the time frame again to where we didn't have to outsource that, and we were able to do the interviews and polygraphs all at the same time, and it was a cost savings to us along those lines. And there again, hiring 4 part-time background investigators that were prior law enforcement. These guys contributed greatly with their skill set that they brought. They were outstanding in adding to the team effort to get going. And so you can see that there was a lot of people involved, a lot of things going on, and we couldn't have done it without any of those partners being very active with us. So on behalf of those that are here today and a lot of those that couldn't be here, thank you very much for this special recognition on the accomplishments that we've had, and great job to everybody and all our partners on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll present the plaque and the recognition of the Best Practice Award. And as Captain Newsom said, there were a lot of cooperative efforts between police personnel operations as well as HR. And my compliments to both groups and to Sheriff Hayden for being willing to move outside of the traditional box and make things happen. So thank you all very much. And next, I'd like to invite Jill Geller and those who are with her, her management staff and others. Mindy, glad you're here. About 2 weeks ago, at the National Conference for Parks and Recreation Officials, once again, Johnson County Parks received special recognition from that national group. And it was for the works at the Arts and Heritage Center, the construction thereof, the programming, and all aspects of that important facility to the community. So I'm going to ask Director Jill Geller to share with us some of the information. And Mindy, who is director of the Johnson County Museum. The museum is an important component of the Arts and Heritage Center, and accepted the award at that national event. So, Jill?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. We are absolutely honored to have received this recognition, this national recognition, and appreciate being recognized here today as well. But I have to be honest with you, as rewarding as that recognition is, we are more rewarded every day with the people that come into the center with their smiling faces. We've been open just over a year and have welcomed more than 200,000 people through the building. So it's been a true benefit to our community. It's truly an intergenerational center. We have thousands of kids come into the building to attend arts classes, dance classes, theater programs and camps, visit Kidscape. We have adults that attend theater productions, visit the museum, come to our theater productions, and we have a vibrant 50-plus population that comes there for programs and our weekly tea dances. So it is just a hustle and bustle of activity all the time. The Arts and Heritage Center has become more than we even dreamed it could be, and we knew it was going to be something very, very special. So you've heard it before. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, County Manager's Office, for allowing us to be a part of this wonderful facility. It truly took a village. The staff that are here today, Bill Mawson, our Superintendent of Parks, Jeff Stewart, Deputy Director, Mindy Love, Museum Director, and many more that couldn't be here today, work their tails off every single day to make sure that this facility is something special for Johnson County. So I thank all of them as well. And again, thank you for your recognition of our receipt of this award. While the award was given to Johnson County Parks and Rec, it truly is a county award. So thank you very much.
Well, Jill, thank you for your leadership, I want to emphasize the success of this facility is in large part due to the leadership that are demonstrated here today, and the programming, the outstanding museum that's been put together in the direction of Mindy Love. And if you haven't been there, you need to go and revisit the exciting history of Johnson County. So I'll present officially this award to you, and congratulations to all who were involved. Mindy, you need to get down there.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
At this time, we'll turn to the public comment portion of our agenda. If there's anyone present who would like to address the commission on an item which does not later appear on the agenda, would invite you to the podium, state your name and address, limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we'll be glad to receive that information. Mr. Raby.
Good morning, Tom Raby, 17513 West 113th Street in Olathe. In spite of all the digging around Olathe and other parts of the county, I was able to find a parking space today, so the man that you sent out to block me failed in his task. And it's legal. There's more digging going on than there are politicians trying to destroy my landline at home with
All
caller
you have to
I-
do is drive around the county, and there's activity everywhere, and that's good.
with caller IDs that look like the identity of some Cayman Islands bank account or something instead of a person, and you don't want to answer that. Okay. Also, the railroad's blocked. I don't know why that's blocked this morning, but you can't cross the tracks out there.
I don't know. I don't know the
I know,
answer to that.
the railroad doesn't ask for permission for anything.
No, the railroads have their own timetable about everything.
I felt for you guys, even though you had nothing to do with it, with all the driver's license fiascos. I'm sure you got emails and phone calls for which you could do nothing, and that was, except to explain to people that that's handled by the state. There's also a lot of them crying and moaning about a housing shortage, but you see apartments popping up everywhere, but the only houses being built are not quite affordable for most folks. But there is redevelopment going on. I see one of our commissioners made it all the way to the old French Market this week to press the flesh with all kinds of politicians who showed up as if they magically did this. But thank you, politicians. Somebody's got to take the accolades. Dr. Thomas Sowell said that most legislative bodies work diligently to try to fix legislation that was enacted by the previous version of that legislative body. Now, I'm paraphrasing. That's not exactly the way he phrased it, but that's true. So watch out for politicians. There's some of the people that'll screw up your caller ID. And speaking of entities, one of our more well-known entities in the country is banning plastic soda straws. And I guess that means they won't suck anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, Tom, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? All right, if there's no one else to be heard, the public comment portion of our agenda is concluded. I do have a couple of notes for the record. I will be signing 2 full release of easements for the Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer line at Johnson Drive and Slater Street in the city of Merriam, and also a partial release of easement for the Consolidated Main Sewer District due to the removal of sanitary sewer line at 135th Street and Grant Street in the city of Overland Park. That concludes the notes for the record. Moving to the consent agenda, will the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda?
Item number 1, consider approving the July 12th, 2018 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider reappointing Mike Jones as the 4th District Representative to the Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee through March 31st, 2021. Item number 3, consider approving the elimination of the service area boundary restriction for paratransit service in Johnson County and provide paratransit services to the entirety of Johnson County, Kansas. And item number 4, consider approving an agreement between Johnson County, Kansas and the city of Olathe, Kansas for the joint utilization of compressed natural gas fueling stations located at 1800 West Old 56 Highway and at the City of Olathe Public Works Facility and the Murray L. Nolte Transit Center.
Is there any commissioner who would like to have an item considered separately? Is there anyone present who would like to have an item considered separately? There's no one to be heard. It's back before the commission. Mr. Osterhaus.
Move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Moving to the action agenda, item number 5.
Consider approving the July 17th, 2018 special business session minutes.
Mr. Klicko. Commissioner Klicka was absent. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Osterhaus.
I'll move that we approve the July 17, 2018 special business session minutes.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes as presented. Are there any corrections or additions? There being none, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Abstain.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item, number 6.
Resolution number 052-18, application number SW-ADUP-3401, MC. Consider a request from Phelps Engineering Incorporated, applicant, and Holtwick Family Trust, landowner, for an accessory dwelling unit permit located at 21135 County Line Road on property zoned RUR, Rural District on 160 acres.
Mr. Greeley.
Good morning, Paul Greeley with the Planning Department. This is an accessory dwelling unit permit on a piece of property in the far southwest corner of the county, near Douglas County, Miami County, as you can see on the screen. There's an existing house on the property, farmhouse. As you can see on the picture, there's also other farm buildings. This is about 160 acres of ground. It's very apparent farm ground. What the applicant is proposing, this picture of the existing farmhouse, is to build a new barn, nice new bright red barn, fit in well in this area, and within that barn build an accessory dwelling unit, 1,800 square feet. Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board held a public hearing on it, recommends approval with the stipulations listed in your report. Staff recommends approval. The applicant and representatives are here this morning if you have questions for us.
Okay. Again, this comes to us with favorable recommendation from both staff and the zoning board. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Greeley, with the approvals, is it fair to assume that it meets all the life safety codes for such a residential undertaking? We've had some issues of some older barns being converted and some life safety issues. This is
a new structure,
yeah, so this is well covered.
The residential portion component will have to integrate with the barn, so it will be built to the building code residential standards, yes.
Very good, thank you.
Just a note of trivia, I understand this is about as far southwest in Johns County as you can get and still stay in the county, is that right? Something like that.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Any other questions? The applicant is present. Any comments the applicant would like to make?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm Dave Holtwick, and my wife and I, Beth, make up Holtwick Family Trust. I do need to clarify one thing that is in the resolution, and this came up at the Southwest Consolidated Zoning Board meeting as well. The actual size of the structure is more like 3,700 square feet, and there is no limit on size of accessory buildings on the property. The reason we're here today has to do with the size of the ADU in that structure. That is correct. It's 1,800 square feet. So the barn represented there today. So what I'm telling you is we're actually building a structure for secured storage and farm operation there, as well as having this accessory dwelling unit in it. So where some might, you might look at it and say, why do we have, an 1,800 square foot ADU and a 2,600 square foot building? It's really more, it is about half and half. So it'll be used for farming operation as well. I'm a proud Johnson County, and I was born and raised on this, not in that barn. I'd love to have that barn when I was a kid, but our barn will look like that. This barn will be located back where a barn was. It went down in about 94, 95 when a storm went through. I'll be the 5th generation in my family to own and live on this property. The house that you saw there was built in about 1905 by my great-great-grandparents, the Fairchilds. It's 111 years old, and our thought is that we want to build this ADU so that we can move to the property, then remodel, refinish the barn, or the house, rather. It's an older structure that needs a lot of work, and so rather than trying to live in it while we're doing it, that's what we want to do. So anyway, and then after that, the ADU, as I said, will be used for farm storage. The part of the barn will be for that, and the rest of it will be for family and friends when they come to visit. Because we'll reduce the house really to 2 bedrooms so we can get some closets and other space. But anyway, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have. I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to be before you today and make this special request. So if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? All right, Dave, excuse me, Mr. Brown, did you have? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, if there's no one else to be heard, it's back before the commission. The motion is in order. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I will quickly make a comment before I make the motion that I'm excited about this. This is the southwest corner of Johnson County. It also happens to be the southwest corner of the Big 6 district, and I have stood at that intersection and taken a picture of the Holtwick's farm in the background, and I'm excited about this, the barn being out there and what that adds to our district, and to get the Holtwick's out of the 2nd district out to the Big 6. Very excited about that. Sorry, Commissioner Allen. So with that, I move to adopt resolution number 052-18, approving an accessory dwelling unit permit located at 21135 County Line Road for the reasons and subject to the stipulations set forth within the resolution.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the resolution and the application as noted and recommended. Any further questions or discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Arnold.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Next item, number 7.
Resolution 056-18. Consider approving the fiscal year 2019 budget for the Johnson County Fire District Number 1 and disclosing that the proposed budget for Johnson County Fire District Number 1 for 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index, CPI, for all urban consumers, and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Tom Dugan with the Budget Office. This item and the following 3 items cover the budgets for the fire districts. None of the fire districts are raising their mill. All of the fire districts are required to have a board's budget resolution because their ad valorem growth is higher than the Consumer Price Index. Fire District Number 1 is up first. Their budgeted expenditures increased by $1,150,271 to $5,558,810. That is a 26% increase in expenditures. That is largely due to the fact that they were successful in gaining grant funding, federal grant funding to add personnel. Their personnel increases are going up 27%. They also have a mill reduction of 0.631 mills, and their mill levy is 14.529 mills. And if you have any questions, Chief Kirk is here as well.
Chief, could you respond? The grants providing for the employees, how long do they last, and do they go away, or what happens if they go away, when they go away?
How that's set up is that we apply for a SAFER grant, and that's a 75 for the first year, a 75 for the second, a 75-25 split. They pay 75, we pay 25. The second year, the same, 75-25. And in the third year, it reverses to a 25-75, and then it's ours after the third year.
Okay.
So we were able to hire 3 personnel for that last year. In 19, we're going to put 4 more people on, and that will include another chief officer, assistant chief of operations. Our expenditure rise too because we also ordered a aerial device, and that is on a lease program. So we've also put $122,350 in there for them for the lease payments for 10 years.
Okay. Other questions? Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dugan, thank you for that clarification, and Chief, thank you for the elaboration. I was looking at that 26% increase, but I was trying to understand what impact that will have on operations, and it looks like there's not going to be much impact on response time. So what are you seeing as the benefits of this, these additional personnel?
Well, that's a good question, and I appreciate that. We have ordered a squad unit, which is like the old Squad 51 that we used to see in Rescue 51. I think everybody on there has watched that show. A lot of people out here probably don't know what I'm talking about, but we have ordered one of those, and the personnel will be on that, and that will increase our responses. That's going to be a mobile unit, and it's mainly going to be set up for the EMS calls that we have, since, you know, 75% of our calls are EMS calls, and the intermodal is a call-driven place with as many people that are there during the day, and we're averaging, you know, 6 to 8 calls there a week. And that's what's drawn our times down, and I'm a very hard stat man, and I watch those stats, and that's why we got this squad, so that we can enhance that. And one thing too, that we are behind on staffing, and we are trying to catch up to that benchmark that NFPA puts us at for staffing, and we're slowly getting there. And with our growth, it is my opinion as a chief and the board, and I want to say I got board member Mark Radolski and Dr. Brian Cook with us, and with their support, we have been able to do two things. We've been able to enhance our employees' salary to try to get them up near the mark survey. We're still a ways from there, but we're trying to get there. And with the growth there, we are trying to up our staffing, because we know in 2020 in our CIP that we're going to be building one station, and you know, that's 18 more people, so we're trying to get ahead of that curve.
So do you foresee an impact on response times?
Yes, that's why I say, well, we get the squad there, it's going to lower our response times, because it's going to be mobile.
Okay, beyond what's reflected in your stats,
Yes.
because it says a 2-second response time difference. Is that 3 additional personnel will reduce it 2 seconds? Is that what you're saying?
Are you talking about, is that the, I don't know what you're referencing to there?
Well, there's a document that
Oh, the performance measurement, is that what you're looking at?
Yes, sir.
And you're looking at it from, and I apologize, Battalion Chief filled this out for me, so our response times will continue to drop.
Right, we had 4 minutes down to 3 minutes, 58 seconds with the additional 2 staff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
The national average, by the way, is 5 minutes.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Brown?
Just another quick comment, and then I'm happy to make a motion when appropriate. But I would point out that much of what has happened within Fire District Number 1 growth has occurred in Edgerton, and much of it has been tax abated for a period of time. So when those roll off of abatement at the industrial park, that money issues and concerns will become less of a driver with Number 1. So just wanted to point that out, that there is much out there that requires service draw, as Chief had said, you know, averaging about a call a day to run out there for something. That's expensive. But when those do hit the tax roll and roll off of abatement, that will subside, that pressure, the money pressure. So, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, Chief. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? All right, if there's no one to be heard, it's back before the commission. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I move to approve the fiscal year 2019 budgets for Johnson County Fire District Number 1 and to adopt Resolution 056-18, disclosing that the proposed budget for Johnson County Fire District Number 1 for fiscal year 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of fiscal year 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution and the budget request as presented. Any further questions or comments? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I am going to support this budget request, but I do so with certain reservations. The additional staff and the funding efforts to have a grant supplement that, I commend the chief and the department for doing that. That's wise, but I just hesitate because to add 3 additional staff with such what appears to be an almost inconsequential change in response times as a key performance indicator is troublesome for me. I would hope that when the actual report is offered next year, that the chief can slap me around by saying, well, see, it was much more than 2%. But having said that, I do have those reservations that we're adding a 26% increase in the budget for a negligible performance increase. I hope there's more to it than what I'm seeing here.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind the increase in the development and growth that's occurring in this district's area, and especially in the logistics park. And as the chief indicated, those calls are increasing. So I think you need to balance out the expenditure with the anticipated increase in calls, and I'm sure that has an impact. So,
agreed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's fair, but in this budget, it's a 5% increase versus a 25% cost increase, a 5% increase in the actual number of calls for service. So that seems incongruous to me. So I'm struggling with it, but I will be supportive.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, the motion is before us. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item number 8, Resolution 057-18. Consider approving the fiscal year 2019 budget for Johnson County Fire District Number 2 and disclosing that the proposed budget for Johnson County Fire District Number 2 for 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index, CPI, for all urban consumers, and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Mr. Dugan.
Tom Dugan with Budget. Fire District Number 2 has budgeted expenditures with an increase of $1,193,928. That is a 20.47% increase. That increase is due to a couple of things. One is we're putting over $600,000 in reserve, which is a good step for this district to take. They also have a fairly large increase in their personnel budget, partially due to that change from CAPERS to KPF. Their ad valorem increases by $375,076. That's 10%. Their mill stays generally flat with a very, very slight decrease. And Chief Francis is here as well if you have any questions.
Okay. Chief.
Good morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Well, we had some discussion at our first board meeting here a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And so any other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, and I want to back up because I want to thank Mr. Dugan. You've done a very good job this year of providing comparable reports. I don't know if this is a state requirement now, but it's very easy to track kind of the 4 departments. So I appreciate the layout and the format of this, and all the chiefs, I thank you for working on this. But Chief Francis, a couple of questions. The $600,000 in reserves, can you elaborate on why 600,000? Why not 300,000, or why not $1 million? What's the thought process?
Let me start off by saying, last December, the Fire Board voted to transition the employees to Kansas Police and Fire Retirement System effective January of this year. In order to accomplish that, we had to hold back on a scheduled transfer into reserves out of the 2017 budget. We also did that with the 2018 budget in order that we could do that and make that fit within this budget year. So we didn't transfer any funds over. So this makes up for that. This also adequately funds our 10-year CIP and gives us a cash reserve moving forward. We've projected out our CIP expenses for 10 years, and there were a few years, I think in 2020 or 2022, 2023, where that if we didn't have a transfer of over 600,000, we were going to be operating with very little money in reserves due to planned expenditures that we foresee.
Okay, very good. Now, are there any additional staffing additions in this request?
There is no additional staffing.
Okay, and the decision to go from CAPERS to KPF, are you the last department to do that of the four?
We are the last department in Johnson County to do that.
Last department in Johnson County to do that. Okay, very good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Again, is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? There's no one to be heard. It's back before the commission. A motion is in order. Mr. Clickett.
I move to approve the fiscal year 2019 budgets for Johnson County Fire District Number 2 and to adopt Resolution 057-18, disclosing that the proposed budget for Johnson County Fire District Number 2 for fiscal year 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of fiscal year 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the resolution and the budget in regards to Fire District Number 2. Any further questions or discussion? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will support this motion, but I do have reservations. But having a little bit more familiarity with this department and the transition it's going through, particularly with Overland Park and Spring Hill, the move to buttress reserves makes a lot of sense, and to move from CAPERS to KPF, I'm going to offer benefit of the doubt. I understand that makes sense at some level, and I will grant that and not question it. I do, though, when I look at the fact that the costs are increasing 20%, and the performance expectations only go up, in this case, 4.9%, that to me is just incongruous. Response rates, again, are only improving two tenths or 2 seconds, and I would like to see more of a linkage between the costs and benefits of these operations. And I know that this department is in transition, and I am looking forward to learning more about how the operation goes forward and what the county can do to be supportive of those efforts.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, the motion is before us. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Clickett.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Next item.
Item number 9, Resolution 058-18. Consider approving the fiscal year 2019 budget for Northwest Consolidated Fire District and disclosing that the proposed budget for Northwest Consolidated Fire District for 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index, CPI, for all urban consumers, and providing the disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Mr. Dugan.
Northwest Consolidated Fire District expenditures increased by $158,783 to $2,892,638. That's 5.81%. Ad valorem increases by $67,113 to $2,424,359. That's 2.85%. They're also proposing a mill levy reduction in the amount of 0.917 mills. And Interim Chief Todd Maxton is here as well.
Okay. Chief, any comments you'd like to make?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Going into this, we knew that our primary goal was going to be to lower the mill levy, and whatever that took to be reasonable, conservative, and still fulfilling the needs of the Northwest Consolidated Fire District. So with much assistance that I've had with my board and other folks in this room, we've accomplished that. We remain bond-free, we remain debt-free, with exception of truck financing. You'll also notice some cost reductions when it comes to commodities, and that was because we've identified multiple efficiencies. And the budget items, we're confident that they are at realistic levels. We will be adding one additional full-time equivalent next year in anticipation of the possibility of actually 4 with the same grant opportunity that Chief Kirk discussed. And with that, also, that's going to include a minimum staffing level increase. I'm still trying to get 3 firefighters on a fire truck, with a national recommendation being 4. We're also going to do a living quarters remodel, and we also have a new fire engine projected for next year also. And I'm sorry, with me today also is Vice Chairman Jay Lang from the Fire Board.
Okay. Mr. Dugan, let me ask you this. Is a resolution required also for this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was my question. Mr. Ashcraft?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, is this your first time before us?
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. I will ask you this question, but it may be more appropriate for Mr. Lang to answer. May I ask, how long have you been with the department?
This is my 25th year.
Okay, so you may be familiar with this, but last year, the previous chief came before us and asked for 3 FTEs. And one of the statements that he made was by adding those 3 FTEs, which I think we approved, that there would be a 15-second improvement in response rates, and that was included in the budget. But that improvement did not come about. So I'm just wondering, you added, and Chief, I know you personally didn't, but the department did, added 3 positions last year, and they're on the presumption, on the assertion that there would be an improvement in performance, but there wasn't. So can you elaborate on that? And you're indicating that you want to add another position and even go to 4-man or 4-person vehicles. How is that going to improve response rates? Because there is a cost to that, and I'm just trying to understand what the impact on service is going to be.
Okay, good question. And just to clarify, when we're talking about times, are we talking about response times, or are we talking about turnout times?
Well, I am just reflecting on the graphic, the chart that is provided to us by Mr. Dugan, which I think he indicated comes from the departments, but I will have to defer to him in terms of how this is actually compiled.
We do compile it from the information that they provide in their state forms.
Okay.
Well, I would suggest that, including an additional person on a unit may not directly impact the response time, but the level of service that's provided certainly has a positive impact. And so let's not, the geography of the district also would be a key component as a response time. And the districts that cover the unincorporated area, I think, have particular challenges in that area.
And Mr. Chairman, I think that's an astute observation. I just raised that because there's a debate between professional city managers and fire department professional managers about staffing per truck and the relative cost benefit of having 3-person trucks versus 4-person trucks. The argument is 4 persons obviously is much more costly, and the service impact is not as well established as one might hope to justify that cost. So when I hear that, I don't want to dissuade those efforts, but I definitely want to understand it, because that's a 25% increase. That's pretty substantial.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Brown?
Just a couple of comments. Thank you, Chairman. Northwest Consolidated Fire District has gone through quite a bit in the way of changes since the last time we went through a budget. And I want to say to Todd Maxton, thank you for stepping into the role. Thank you for your leadership you've provided and the effort that you've put into this. It's visible. And a thank you to the board that worked through some difficult times. It was challenging as we moved through the changes that occurred at the district. And I'm proud of Northwest Consolidated Fire District. I understand Commissioner Ashcraft's question about efficiency. I don't know how maybe there is a measurement that quantifies adding a person to a truck, and I don't think that is in a response time. The vehicle is going to get there when the vehicle is going to get there, whether it's hauling 3 or 4 people. So the response time isn't going to change at all, but there must be some save rate or salvage rate or survivability. There must be some index for putting that extra person on there that is some kind of quantifiable. I'm supportive of this amendment and happy to make the motion when it's time. And again, I'm proud of Northwest. You guys have been through a lot, and things are shaping up and looking good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone present who would like to address the commission on this item? All right, if not, Mr. Brown, you have a motion?
I do. Thank you, Chairman. I move to approve the fiscal year 2019 budgets for Northwest Consolidated Fire District and to adopt Resolution 058-18, disclosing that the proposed budget for Northwest Consolidated Fire District for fiscal year 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of fiscal year 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban communities.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution and the budget as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, a follow-on to my original question about the 15 seconds and 3 additional staff. Is there any elaboration you can offer in terms of why we were not able to impact the response rates? And Mr. Lang is giving me the high sign.
Commissioner Jay Lang, I'm Vice Chairman of the Northwest Consolidated Board. I do believe that was very unrealistic that you were told. No matter what, when the tone comes out, the firemen get into the truck, it takes approximately 7 seconds for that garage door to open. No matter if they're sitting there with the engine running and everything else. It's the personnel arriving to the fire. That's where you really get the benefit. So I believe the 15 seconds was an unrealistic figure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye, motion carried. Next item.
Thank you.
Resolution number 05918, consider approving the fiscal year 2019 budget for Consolidated Fire District Number 2 and for disclosing that the proposed budget for Consolidated Fire District Number 2 for 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index CPI for all urban consumers and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Mr. Dugan.
Consolidated Fire District 2 looks a little different than the others. They actually had a significant capital project that caused a spike during 2018. So they actually have a decrease of $4,309,205. That's around a 23% decrease. Their ad valorem increases by 8.05% to $11,501,745, and their mill stays relatively flat at 0.012 mill reduction.
Okay.
And Chief Lopez is here as well if there's any questions for him.
Okay, Chief, any comments you'd like to make?
Good morning. I'd be glad to take any questions that you might have concerning our fire district.
All right, other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dugan, I will follow up with you. I asked this, Mr. Chairman, I met with Mr. Dugan yesterday, so I asked him this question. I was hoping for some follow-up. If we take out the spike in capital expenditures and just look at normal operations, What is the increase or decrease for 2019 over 18?
I pulled out both reserves and that capital project, and the increase was under 1%.
The increase is under 1%?
Yes.
Well, but the CPI is over 1%, so why do we still have to have an authorization?
The ad valorem is more than the CPI growth,
Oh,
so we
okay.
still have to have the resolution.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, anyone present like to make a comment in regards to this item? No one to be heard. It's back before the commission. Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to make this motion regarding my fire department. I move to approve the fiscal year 2019 budget for Consolidated Fire District Number 2 and to adopt Resolution 059-18, disclosing that proposed budget for Consolidated Fire District Number 2 for fiscal year 2019 is proposed to be funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of fiscal year 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution and the budget as presented. Any further comments? Mr. Allen.
Just one quick comment. Chief, I saw an article about you took some local students for back-to-school supplies, and very positive for the fire district to participate in, and thanks for doing that.
Yes, thank you. That's been quite a program, and we started that last year in conjunction with the Prairie Village Foundation, and it's almost moving to see that, and it's really worked out well. We're really proud to be in that program.
Okay. All right, thank you. No further questions. Mr. Klicka?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick note to the fire departments. We appreciate all the efforts that you've been going through here over the last year. More specifically, Fire District Number 2. You've had a few challenges here up and down the line, but I think one thing that's coming out of all of this is that the commission is getting a better understanding of what the needs and issues are facing the fire districts. And while they're going to keep evolving down the line, at least I think at least you'll see that we're going to be stronger partners as we move down and move further. And for that, thank you for your patience and your endurance through the effort.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Well, let me add thank you to the volunteers, community volunteers who assist in supporting our fire districts and serving in the capacity as board members. It's certainly very helpful. We appreciate that activity, and even though issues come up from time to time that must be dealt with, we do very much appreciate those who volunteer their time to help us provide an outstanding fire service. Thank you very much. Are there any other items on our action agenda?
No, sir.
All right, we'll move to reports and communications. Ms. Postoke Ferguson.
Good morning. In the interest of a busy schedule, I will move through this fairly quickly. The City of Overland Park on July 9th approved the redevelopment project plan known as Edison OP TIF District. You've seen this before through the creation of the district. This is now a project plan that has come back to inform you that they have approved it. And you'll see in the box below the two City of Overland Park items, you'll see that the total project cost is $53.9 million. $10.6 million of that is for the TIF incentives, and that's to go towards a parking garage. The second item at the City of Overland Park on July 9th, they approved an ordinance for the redevelopment district, and that is, again, notice of approval. And you'll see that that's 20 years. We don't typically see the project costs until the project plans come forward. Attached in the pack also is the major projects update. You will hear later this morning the PBC update. So this is a bi-monthly, as you know, report that supplements the biannual report for the PBC. So I won't go into that detail unless you have some questions. The next item is the new legislative software update, letting you know that our agenda system, LIMS, referred to as the SIRE product, is being upgraded as of January 1st. And if you have questions leading up to that, John Bartolak or our staff can help you with that. But know that it will be much more user-friendly on all devices, mobile devices. So we look forward to that. And leading up to that, we will see some changes behind the scenes. So if you have questions, let us know. And then finally, I'll turn it over to Scott Neufeld, our budget director, to review the public hearing from Monday night for the budget.
Thank you, Penny. As you all know, we had a fairly short public hearing Monday night. We had two gentlemen that addressed the board, and so when it's that few, I try to keep my recap brief because you all probably remember most of the details. But really the focus of the first gentleman was to discuss the mill levy and whether we were doing enough to offset growth in property taxes with our efforts to roll back. And his concern was that we could do more than that. And then he also pointed to a capital project in the sheriff's office and expressed concern that we would go through a competitive bidding process with regard to the eventual vendor selected in terms of platform and competition. So those were his two main things that he focused on. The second gentleman talked about reserves, and you know, it's one of those things that we typically compartmentalize our budget between expenditures and reserves that we plan to have on hand at the end of the year. In our efforts to kind of balance keeping this particular presentation at a high level as opposed to our budget deliberations through the year, probably didn't do a good enough job of delineating that difference. And so we had a good discussion. The chair talked to him in front of everyone about that in terms of the published reserves. But just for the folks who didn't see that, we typically project what our ending reserves will be and include that in the budget document that affords transparency and flexibility to the board. But the key thing there is that those published reserves cannot be spent without board action. And so what that means is that other than like reimbursement revenue, things like that, true expenditures and use of reserves has to be an agenda item before the board. So there are the highest level, in my mind, controls in place there for those reserves. So that's something that, you know, it's always a balance between brevity and keeping things at a high level and how well you explain everything on every slide. And so that was something that, you know, the chairman explained, but I probably could have framed a little better up front. The other item was kind of in the same category, and he talked about having two airports and the necessity thereof. And obviously, as you all know, and again, if you get into the detail of the budget, that both of the county airports under the Airport Commission have functioned without tax support and without indirect support. We charge them full cost allocation. We have lots of fun meetings with them about what that should be. And as we've provided more support in the last year, we've reflected changes in the cost allocation to keep up with that. So we're very diligent, and the Airport Commission and staff has been very diligent for, I'd say, probably about a dozen years or so, maybe a little longer, in terms of not having any county support. And so, again, that was one of those things where, because of the complexity of our budget, the gentleman misunderstood or misconstrued that we show all expenditures, whether or not they're taxpayer supported or not. That's a transparency thing, but there sometimes can be confusion. And like I said, the chairman did a good job of explaining that those were not tax dollars and that those airports provide benefit to Johnson County citizens, but they're fee supported. So that's really the extent of my comments. And like I said, with only two speakers, there's not as much to cover. And you guys probably remembered all that anyway. So
thank you very much. Anything else, Ms. Postoke-Ferguson?
Nothing further, thank you.
I do have one item, and perhaps Mr. Franzen has already emailed us, but I heard a report that the new licensing plate situation is been deferred until middle of August. I assume we're ready to respond to that.
Yes, that is correct. I think it's August 16th.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
All right, turning to commission comments, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a few here I want to run through, and I'll make them brief. Question came up earlier about the railroad crossings being closed. I made several phone calls to BNSF having to do with the railroad crossings through downtown Olathe and spoke with a couple of people at BNSF. The crossings are closed is because they're milling down the humps and the asphalt in between. They have a long-range plan for fixing that problem, but that problem will continue to occur because especially at Santa Fe crossing is where an original creek bed, I guess, millions of years ago was, and the weight of the trains rumbling over the top of that continues to squeeze the ground and push the asphalt up. So milling it down will be a continued process until they come up with a final solution. So that's why the railroad crossings are closed. And a couple of sad notes. Johnson County Sheriff's Office lost Jim Koser this past week. He passed away, and my prayers are with him and his family. And I lost a personal friend, Jeff Johnson, this week, and again, prayers to his family. Want to point out, I spoke with Chief Kirk after they all left the room, and he wanted me to point out that he neglected to mention that they have crews currently in Wyoming and Colorado responding on mutual aid basis for wildfire. And Johnson County as a whole, and Chief Kirk serves as the lead for Johnson County Fire, has been asked to respond for California too. So they're working through that with all of the cities and all the individual county departments. So they're working on that. So there is much that happens in the way of things even outside of Johnson County in America that I'm perfectly good with and that I like. I want to point out that I watched yesterday the remains of 55 vets come home to Hawaii, and it was powerful. We're one of the few nations on earth that remember those who served and died to protect us and provide for our freedom, and I really like seeing us do that. That makes me proud of my country and to be an American. And to those 55 men and the 7,700 others that haven't come home yet, we miss you, boys. We're glad you're back. And today is my mother's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom.
Very good. Mr. Osterhaus.
Well, I'll just say thank you to those who showed up to the public hearing. I know there were a lot of people who showed up that didn't necessarily make comments, but were engaged, so we appreciate that. We had our first meeting of our Intergovernmental Policy Academy, the joint kind of efforts with NACO to reduce our juvenile population in jails. That went very well, a lot of community support there. And then the chairman and I had an opportunity to go out and for the, I guess kind of the groundbreaking or the announcement of the Shamrock Trading Company purchasing the northeast corner of 95th and Metcalf for their new development. 1,000 jobs will be coming to Overland Park in the county over the next few years. That was a nice turnout. If Tom's still here, I'm not taking any credit for that. Just let you know. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Allen.
Real quickly, went last Saturday morning, was in line at 6:30 at the driver's license office for a real ID. One of my sons needed his license renewed. They opened the doors at 7:29. They actually had 4 people verifying documents, fully staffed, was in and out in 10 minutes.
Very good. Mr. Ashcraft.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Klicka.
Nothing.
Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you. Prairie Village used to have a sister city, Dolynia, Ukraine, and a delegation from the nation of Ukraine was visited Kansas City area and also Prairie Village this last 3 or 4 days, so I had a chance to visit with them twice. Shared some information about politics and all other good things that we're all aware of, but Ukraine's going through some issues right now, of course, with Russia. But these particular group are very positive about the outcome of the future of Ukraine, so it was good to get to know those new people.
All right, thank you very much. A couple of items. The Gardner Fair, Johnson County Fair Parade will be held this Saturday. I think it starts at 10 a.m., so it's always a good parade, and after the parade's over, you can attend some of the activities there at the fair. And then this Sunday, August 5th, we'll have the ribbon cutting for the new Monticello branch of the Johnson County Library System. That's in Shawnee at roughly Johnson Drive and
Shawnee Mission Parkway.
Shawnee Mission Parkway and K7. So an outstanding facility, quite frankly, and congratulations to the board and staff and those involved in that project. So we do have a request for an executive session. We have several things this morning yet. One is a committee of the whole, which was originally scheduled at 11. We're not going to get there at 11. So perhaps our executive session can last about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and to begin at 11:10 a.m.
I would move that the board recess its open meeting and convene in an executive session at approximately 11:10 a.m. for a period of 25 minutes, 20 minutes for the purpose of discussing matters related to security to preserve the security of county operations, and for a period of 5 minutes for the purpose of receiving the advice of counsel and to reconvene, and to preserve attorney-client privilege, and to reconvene an open session in this room at approximately 11:35 a.m. or there soon after, as the executive session may end.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded in regards to the executive session request. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye, motion carried. So we are in recess from our regular session. We have PBC, we have agenda review, and PBC agenda review. So stay close. We're in recess. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I see 4, 3, the red one. Who said black one?
takes them a
Thank you.
while to get the adjustments from our appraisal, so. anyway.
Okay, cool, thank you.
At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for the purpose of our PBC meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka.
Here.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here. We do have a quorum present. Item number 1 is approval of the special meeting minutes as of July 12.
Move for approval?
Here, second.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Klicka.
Aye.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Aye.
And Chairman Eilert.
Aye. Motion carried. Item number 2.
Project update.
Mr. Reinhardt.
Good morning, Chairman Eilert and Commissioners. There are 7 projects that are on your project update report in your packet, so no new ones have been added. I will make note that 3 are now completed, coming off the next time we provide you an update. Those include the Monticello Library branch that was mentioned earlier this morning that's opening this weekend, the Blue Valley Library expansion and renovation study, and the New Century Adult Detention Center roof replacement. That project is also complete. So next time there'll be 3 fewer projects on our list. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may
Any
have.
questions? All right, thank you. Excuse me, Mr. Osterhaus.
I just want to say thank you for reducing the size of the presentation from 99 pages down to what it is now. Thank you, Brad.
All right, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Next item.
Item number 3, statement of net assets unaudited.
Julie.
Good morning, Julie Heifel, Treasury and Financial Management, and I'm here this morning to bring you required report twice a year for the Public Building Commission's financial statements. As you know, these are very simple, straightforward statements. I just want to bring to your attention the assets included are the large cash balance currently financing projects and our capital asset listing, followed by the liabilities, which are the bonded debt, and resulting in a total net position of almost $142 million. One comment on the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We normally don't see too much in the other category for the revenues. That is always the amounts that are, the revenues are the amounts that are charged to the county to pay for the bonds. And this will be the last time you'll see the other category where we've been using the public safety sales tax receipts in advance of issuing the courthouse bonds. So bottom line on this statement is also that it ties back to the $142 million net position. And I'll stand for questions if you have any.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Are there any other items?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Item number 4, statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in the fund net assets unaudited. Did you do both?
Julie, that was included, right? Yeah, okay. So there are no other items to be considered.
No, sir.
Excuse me? We are adjourned, and we'll reconvene for agenda review next week's business session. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for the purpose of agenda review for next week's business session. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka.
Here.
Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft.
Here.
Commissioner Brown. Here. And Chairman Eilert.
Here. All are present. We do have a quorum. Would the clerk please read the proposed consent agenda items?
Item number 1, consider approving the July 19th, 2018 business session minutes. Item number 2, consider appointing Lori Olson as the 4th District Representative to the Museum Advisory Council through May 7th, 2021. And item number 3, consider approving the Kansas Department of Transportation, KDOT, Form 1309, Authority to Award Contract Commitment of County Funds to commit and authorize payment of $154,000 for the replacement of the 127th Street Bridge over Captain Creek.
This bridge has been under consideration for some time, as I recall, and so we finally have the grant from KDOT, and so it will move forward. Any other questions? Mr. Ashcraft.
Mr. Chairman, what you said is true. We have discussed that. I think what I struggle with is this the best use of $1 million in public funds? I just, there just is no other choice in terms of whatever we're trying to accomplish than to spend $1 million here.
Mr. Vos, are you present?
Jeff Vos
Once
with Public
Can you
Works.
explain the situation?
Yes, this is a structure. It's out on 127th Street. It's west of the Sunflower Ammunition Plant. There are properties there that we do need to provide access for. There's a cemetery that's been operating for over 100 years out there. So we do need to provide access to this. It is a structure. It's over 100 years old. It's in need of replacement. We spent a lot of money on inspections on it because it's fracture critical. It's also scour critical. So we're spending a lot of money on a very old structure, and it does need to be replaced. It's one of our few bridges below 50% sufficiency, so it's at the top of our list for replacement. It doesn't get a lot of traffic, so instead of using our CIP or our federal fund exchange funds, we did seek and receive off-system bridge funds, which is what they're designed for. They're designed for projects that need to be done, but they're not on the major network. So we are using funds from the appropriate source for the appropriate purpose. And we have examined other ways of getting people in and out, and this is the most efficient, cheapest way of doing that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Consent is fine.
All right, remain on consent. Next item.
Item number 4, resolution number 062-18. Consider authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Taxing District for FY 2019, funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Mr. Newfield, the next several items are related. Can you give us a brief explanation?
Yeah, the first 3 items are disclosures, and they are driven by statute. The County Taxing District one is more of a transparency piece, as once the tax lid went into effect, we don't technically need to do this, but they are a straight computation, and this is a straight disclosure based on CPI as provided in state statute. So it's that simplistic formula, and whether or not we're above or below it in these 3 taxing districts.
So these are the resolutions that need to be
disclosed,
provided and signed by the board members, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions? How about item number 2? Or excuse me, item number 5.
Just to clarify, so these are basically procedural?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Would you read item number 5? I think that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Resolution number 063-18, consider authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Library Taxing District for the FY 2019, funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Again, this is a procedural item similar to the previous one. Both of these items will remain on action. Item number 6.
Resolution number 064-18, consider authorizing a levy of property taxes in support of the budget for the Johnson County Park and Recreation Taxing District for FY 2019, funded by property tax revenue exceeding that of FY 2018, adjusted by the 2017 Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, and providing disclosure of the revenue and tax difference.
Again, similar to the previous 2 items, this will remain on action. Item number 7.
Resolution number 065-18, consider adopting the FY 2019 budget and FY 2019 through 2023 capital improvement program as proposed.
Mr. Neufeld.
Thank you, Chairman. This is for adopting the budget, which is by state statute needs to happen later in August is our deadline. We usually try to hit mid-August so that we have time to double and triple check all our numbers before we send them to the state. I want to thank Don and Cindy. They did a rush to finish reviewing and finalizing the budget resolutions, so you have paper copies of those. The budget resolution is a series of key points, mostly explaining and referring to the set of attachments that really kind of go together to make up the budget. Most of them are similar to years past with just updates. Rob and I will be available for any questions between now and next Thursday. There's not anything different from what we've discussed as we've moved forward, but that's kind of the format. And like I said, I know you guys are all seeing those right now for the first time, but really appreciate Don and Cindy getting those finalized before the weekend, so there's time to review any questions that you guys may have. One of the things that we look back on was there's been discussions about the mill levy. We had clear direction from a majority of the board all along in the county taxing district to target at least a 0.25 mill rollback. We did the latest snapshot of the moving parts for assessed valuation earlier this week. We conferred with both John Barlak's office and Paul Welcomes and staff. And so right now, for the county taxing district, we have looked at the pending exemptions. There's about 25 million exemptions. There's one that's about 8 million that could go either way. We're including it in our buffer. We're also making provision for second round appeals that might happen between now and October. So currently we're targeting a rollback in excess of 0.25, and I believe the current number is 0.371. And so the hope there is that once all that washes through, we'll still be at or above 0.25. And I would say that we've probably got about, of the 0.25, 0.015 in play there. Most years, not counting exemptions, last year we had exemption on the school that was huge. But most times the difference in the mill levy between the estimated mill levy in August and the final is 0.001 to 0.003. We have had times where it was 0.011 or 0.012. That only happened once. And then last year we had the school that we knew was going to be approved, no doubt about it, but it hadn't been processed. So that's that kind of rolling number set. But the methodology, I think we're adequately conservative. And as you know, we did this last year, and we ended up, a little bit past the 0.025, and I think we'll do that. Now, moving to parks and library, the direction we received from the commission, we went back and reviewed, was an estimated 0.02 for parks and 0.015 for library. As those numbers change, that means different things because it was based on a differential of growth on the 0.75 mils going back to 2016. So we've provided some information on that. But that was the motion that the board, when we were finalizing the direction to staff to move forward in the budget process, was 0.02 and 0.015. So we have based the parks and the library on those numbers where I've slated in the exemptions and left it there. Any interplay in appeals would be de minimis at this point, and so that was the methodology we used. And of course, this was less about a specific mill as it was to look at growth above the original planned for those 0.75 mils. So that's a lot of numbers, and I'd be happy to sit down with anyone over the next week to make sure we're all queued up on that. And I apologize for how complex this is, but there was that notion, and we kind of laid that out in that memo earlier this week. But that was the methodology we went with to try to get close to the board intent, which was to dial back that growth factor just a hair.
Thank you. The information that's been distributed this morning, and I think earlier this week there was some information distributed as to the amount of revenue that the parks and libraries would receive in excess of anticipated. And I would simply say this, the conversation earlier had been about a reduction in the 0.75 capital mill levy, and that doesn't need to occur. It could go to the general mill levy and protect those capital programs. And again, it's something very, very modest, but we'll have an opportunity for full discussion next week on those items. Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Neufeld, I will take you up on your offer before next week. I want to understand what you're saying in terms of particularly the libraries and the parks.
Sure.
Well, all three actually. So
there's a lot of moving pieces, and be more than happy to do that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Are there any other items to consider?
No, sir.
All right. That concludes our agenda review. We continue in recess, and we'll come back as soon as we can for the PBC agenda review.
Did we go into exec, or did
we go into executive session and come back for the Cal?
I mean, we can do the Cal first if you want. Not rush. I like the 9mm. It's light, fast action, and it's easier as you can see it. We can just go to the space station.
Set up a new
That's not funny,
I know. It's,
Still,
yeah.
Ed, are we going to go into the Cal?
Following this, we'll go into executive session, then come back 11:30 for the Cal.
Cal, okay. Just want to make sure.
Talk about furniture. Huh?
Talk about furniture? Sure.
For an hour? I hope not.
I hope not.
I hope not. However, if you, I've still got an IKEA piece in my living room that's half finished, put together. I do. At this time, we'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting in regards to the PBC for next week's agenda review. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Klicka. Commissioner Osterhaus.
Here.
Commissioner Ashcraft is in the room. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
And Chairman Eilert.
Here, we do have a quorum present. The first item would be minutes of the prior meeting. Item number 2, will the clerk please read?
Item number 2, resolution number PBC 00318. Consider approving to authorize the issuance by the Public Building Commission of Johnson County, Kansas of its lease purchase revenue bonds, Series 2018B, in the aggregate principal amount to be determined, but now estimated to be $163,925,000 for the purpose of funding construction of the new county courthouse and medical examiner's facility.
Okay. Mr. Blum, when will the bids be received?
August 8th at 10 a.m.
Okay, all right, that'll be the day before.
10 a.m. is when the bids will be received.
And these will be 10-year bonds paid for by the public safety sales tax.
Correct. It will be a 9-year term on the bond.
9 years. Okay, very good.
Yep.
And the final number will come
After
the
the
8th?
sale. Correct.
Okay.
And Mr. Brown and I will have a extensive signing session following next week's meeting.
I can't wait.
Any other questions?
No, just the TIC is estimated at 2.68%, and then we've also received a AAA stable rating from Moody's and S&P.
Right, okay. Any other questions? All right, that concludes our agenda review for the PBC meeting next week. We continue in recess from our regular business session, and we'll begin our executive session immediately and return for our committee of the whole meeting, which will begin at approximately 11:30, 11:35. Thank you all. The record will reflect that at approximately 11:35 a.m., we reconvened in open session. No action is required, so we are adjourned. And we'll begin our committee of the whole meeting just as soon as we can gather. Thank you.
Thank you.